So in front of me, I've got this pretty large rifle setup. And what's interesting and kind of fun when you're going to go do a hunt, and especially for us, is what gun am I going to take? What is my setup going to be? I'm Ryan Gresham, and this is Gun Talk Nation. Hey, welcome in. This Gun Talk Nation is brought to you by Ballistic Advantage, FN, Range Ready, Remington Ammunition, Franklin Armory, PWS, Primary Weapons Systems, and Build Box. So welcome in. It's kind of a solo show with me today. So we're going to be probably bouncing around and like a ADD squirrel covering a lot of different things, because sometimes that's how my mind works. But as you listen to this, as you watch it, please, go over to YouTube or Facebook or some of those places where we post it, where you can leave a comment. Leave a comment, and also subscribe to the channel if you're liking it. If you like what we do, it's possible that you listen on podcast because you subscribed to the Gun Talk podcast a decade ago, and then you're getting this in your feed and you listen to it, and we're glad you do. But it would really help us out if you go over to Facebook or YouTube and subscribe or like our channels. And then also on guntalk.com, you can actually subscribe to our email newsletter. And the email newsletter is pretty fun. We've got all kinds of videos and articles, and it goes out a few times a week. Even we'll have like deals that we'll send out that are like last minute deals, what we hear about from Brownells or Palmetto State Armory. So, just some ways that you can help support Gun Talk and what we're doing. So today we're going to cover a few different things. Wanted to talk about some things going on at Range Ready and the classes there, and some experiences from classes recently. We're also, if you're watching this on video, you see that I have a gun out on the table. So we're going to talk about this gun, getting ready for a big hunt out west, which is a little bit different thing for me because we're down here in the deep south. So kind of preparing for that. What gun, optic, suppressor, ammo, what are we picking? Why are we picking it? And some of it, we'll see if you agree or disagree, but maybe give you some thoughts to think about on this. So maybe let's just talk about Range Ready. So obviously we've talked about Range Ready a whole lot. Range Ready is our training school that is a part of Gun Talk. And we did this training school really because we moved into this new headquarters. We didn't know that we would even be doing this. It wasn't part of the plan, but we said, man, you hear about this and somebody says, well, we bought this building, we moved into this space, and it's more space than we need, but maybe we'll figure out something to do with it. Well, that's kind of what happened with Range Ready. And of course, we've been working with Chris Serino for years and years, and Chris is actually a very good instructor. Not only is he a good shooter and has had a lot of training himself, but he's a good teacher, and he really takes it to heart. He takes it very seriously about trying to teach people. So recently we had the Colt class. That was great. I got to participate in that. And as much as I enjoy 1911s, I don't shoot them all that often. I mean, if I had to, and I own a handful of 1911s, but when I'm going to the range and I'm going to pick up a pistol and go shoot it, typically I'm picking up probably some sort of polymer striker fired type gun, unless I want to mix it up. And sometimes that's true. I'll pick up something that's different, revolver, whatever that may be. But I said, I really want to participate in this class. And for the most part, in the 2 days, I did participate in the majority of the class. I had some work stuff going on here at the office as well. But we go around the classroom, and Chris asks everybody to introduce themselves. When you come to a Range Ready class, it's one of the parts of the first morning. Chris says, everybody stand up. Tell us about yourself, your background, all that. And one of the things I said was, as much as I love 1911s, I don't shoot them that much. So I can assure you, I'm going to forget to take the thumb safety off when I draw and go present the gun and shoot. Remarkably, that didn't happen. I don't know how, but it's probably because I was so worried about it. You ever been so worried about something that now it's on your mind, and now it's it's top of mind and you remember to do it. So I did a pretty good job of sweeping that thumb safety down as I went to go shoot. The good thing is we weren't trying to go super fast. Even when I was going, okay, let's go a little bit quicker, it was still fairly smooth and I could think through what I was doing, which was good and probably the safe way to do it. But these were Colt 1911s in 9mm. And when we got on the line, I was the same as everybody else. I had not shot these guns. Chris had shot them, make sure everything was functioning okay. But first shots out of the first mag, you're going, gosh, that's nice. Because a 45 doesn't hurt. It's not snappy. A 40 is snappy. A 45 ACP, traditional cartridge caliber for the 1911, it's not a small cartridge. So you can kind of feel that recoil, and there's the gun just wants to flip, the muzzle flip on it. A 9mm in an all steel gun, gosh, it was pleasant to shoot. Flat shooting, just super fun to shoot. And then running different drills, challenging yourself. One of the things I'm always kind of challenging myself on is resetting that trigger during recoil. So bang, gun recoils. While your trigger is pressed to the rear, you let go of the trigger in recoil, like during muzzle flip. And as you settle back down on the target for a second shot and your sights settle in on wherever that is, you're already pressing the trigger a second time. And it's the reason why Chris and some others who know what they're talking about kind of smirk or kind of chuckle when someone talks about an audible and tactile reset of a trigger. It's something that you don't want a really super long reset if you could help it. But the honest truth is you should be resetting that trigger during recoil so that when you settle back down, your sights settle back down on the target, you're pressing that trigger. You're already in the trigger press and you're coming to that pressure wall on the trigger. It's just something that's going to make you shoot faster and honestly shoot more accurately because it's a more fluid motion of pulling the trigger, releasing the trigger, pulling the trigger, releasing the trigger. And there's not as much, honestly, there's not as much brain getting in the way of your trigger press, because I feel like when I start yanking the trigger, jerking the trigger, it's my brain thinking about the trigger press and thinking about when the gun's going off. And that's when I get in my head. Well, if you just press, gun goes off, bang, press, gun goes off, bang, you're not going to yank the trigger, or you're less likely to. At least that's my experience from it. So that was kind of one thing. Another thing that came up this week, we had a semi-auto pistol class and a variety of people in the class. And we call it SAPO 1, Semi-Auto Pistol Operator 1. It's kind of a long name. Maybe we should change it. Let us know what we ought to name the new version of that class. But it's a 2-day class, and it is kind of starting from assuming you know how to load, unload, perhaps draw and shoot your gun. But it's not an intro, like super basic class, but it's not an advanced class. But by the end of the second day, you're running the gun in a pretty efficient manner. You should be really excelling and being very comfortable. That being said, we've had some people show up who really don't know anything. And the best ones are the ones who know they don't know anything and are a wide open book to learn. The challenging ones are, and you may fall into this category, you got to be honest with yourself. Well, I've owned a lot of guns. I've shot guns. I go to the range and I shoot guns. I load the gun and I go bang, bang, bang. Have you ever taken a multi-day gun class? Because people, if you ask someone, have you ever taken a gun class? Most people who are gun owners will go, oh, yeah, I've taken a class. Well, what was it? Well, I took a concealed carry class. Well, most concealed carry classes do not teach you shooting fundamentals in any length of time. I mean, maybe they give you an hour, but that's really not enough to get skilled at it. It'd be like, sitting me down at the piano and saying, here's an hour lesson. Now you know how to play the piano. Well, not exactly. Maybe you can bang out Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, but you're not proficient, you're not comfortable, and you certainly aren't going to win a match or anything like that. Or are you going to be good enough to defend yourself against multiple attackers who are moving and who knows, right? If you're coming at it from a defensive perspective. So something that we'd love to have everybody come and take a class at Range Ready, but something I want to, I guess, encourage you to do is, if you're honest with yourself and you say, I really have never taken a multi-day class, I'm not that comfortable or proficient, go take a class from someone. And maybe it's an hour, maybe it's 4 hours, maybe it's 1 day, but get more proficient before you jump into the next step, which is, a multi-day class, which I really hope anybody listening to this can come to one of these, because we hand out surveys at the end of every class, and overwhelmingly, it's 10 out of 10 for all these surveys. And I tell people, I said, look, please be critical. Tell us what's wrong. Tell us what we can improve on. And we're constantly striving to do better. We're never satisfied. But I can confidently say you will have a great experience, because that's what dozens or hundreds of other students have said so far. So, Range Ready. So let's take a quick break. And after the break, I'm going to talk about this gun on the table and all the gear and how we came to this decision. FN, FN, Fabrique Nationale. But of course, in the U.S., they're just Fabrique, or FN USA. The newest one from them is the FN Reflex. What is the FN Reflex? Well, I'll tell you this. I've been carrying it. So that tells you one thing right off the bat. It's 9mm. It's 18 ounces. Internal hammer fired, single action only. So it's not actually a striker fired gun. You look at it and go, looks like a striker fired gun. Well, it's actually not. That's not the mechanism. And why do you care? Well, it becomes a very good trigger. Probably one of the best triggers I've felt in a micro compact. That's a max capacity micro compact. Perfect for concealment. Also has hammer forged barrel, 1-inch width for comfort and concealment. All those things that you come to expect from an everyday carry gun. You can learn more over at fnamerica.com. Check out the FN Reflex. If you're an AR guy and you're thinking about doing a build or maybe doing a mod on an AR you have, you need to go check out Ballistic Advantage. Ballistic Advantage, known for their barrels, AR barrels. They also have pistol barrels now. They have AR receivers and other parts. But one of the really cool things is the Hansen barrel, or the Hansen profile. And our buddy, Clint Hansen, he's actually been on this season of Build Box. He developed this, and it's just it's a superior design, is what it is. One of the secrets is the shoulderless design around the gas block. It lets it be a lower profile, lighter weight barrel, but you don't have to give up anything like you do on some lightweight barrels. So it's a little bit hard to explain, but it's one of those things that people are catching on. It limits felt recoil considerably, has a balanced feel, and it's just an upgrade to your gun. So go and check them out, ballisticadvantage.com. Well, on their website, Sig Sauer's website, it still says introducing the new P322. I think it's probably a year old now, but the P322, the most advanced, highest capacity 22 pistol in its class, 21 round capacity in the gun, optics ready with a removable rear sight plate. It's suppressor ready. Actually has an included threaded barrel adapter, interchangeable trigger shoe. Yes, the trigger, the part that you touch, the trigger shoe, you can change it between flat and curved, has fiber optic sights, has ambidextrous controls, and it's basically kind of, I don't know if they want me to say this, but it's sort of a mini version of a P320. And I don't mean mini as in small. It is smaller than a P320, but it's not tiny. I mean, I say 22 pistol, it sounds like it's a pocket gun. It's not. This would be something that I would love to have in an outside the waistband holster, carry around the yard, and certainly great for training. And it's kind of going to mimic the guns that you're used to in that feel. You can learn more, of course, at sigsauer.com. And I'm talking about all the things that we're doing here. Build Box. There's a new season of Build Box right now. It's out on the Outdoor channel, and then, of course, you can see it on our channels. You can see it on Roku. You can see it on guntalktv.com. But Build Box it's the builder show. It's delves into the world of gun building. Each episode has a different, unique build. And so you're going to learn a little bit from like, how do I do this type of upgrade or a gun build? And then we're also going to have some fun, and you're going to see some really cool guns being built on the show. So you can check it out. Go over to guntalk.com and look up Build Box, or just go on YouTube and you can see it there. All right, so we are back to the content of the show. So I want to talk about my hunt coming up. I'm going out to Idaho on an elk hunt. I actually also have a mule deer tag. And I know this is not Gun Talk Hunt, but we're going to get into the gear part of this, which whether you're a hunter or not, I think that this will be useful as a chat for you. So in front of me, I've got this pretty large rifle setup. And what's interesting and kind of fun when you're going to go do a hunt, and especially for us, is what gun am I going to take? What is my setup going to be? And we do have the luxury of being here at Gun Talk Media. We have a lot of different guns to choose from. So we kind of talked about, would it be lightweight? What size are we going to go for? And then also, am I going to take like an AR? That just got discussed, a Ruger SFAR, lightweight, slim, 308 or 6.5. I think they're making it 6.5 now as well. Or am I going to do like a chassis gun? But what I've got here is a Ruger Hawkeye bolt gun. Another one that I kind of considered was the Springfield Armory Redline, the Springfield Armory 2020 Redline, which is Springfield Armory's new, their 2020 is their bolt action series, and the Redline is the lighter weight, kind of a mountain rifle style. We ended up not having one in the office, or probably that would have been up there in the running, but sometimes you also go to easy, right? So this is a gun that was mostly already set up. So this is a Ruger Hawkeye. It's in 6.5 PRC. So 6.5 PRC, I mean, you probably know 6.5 Creedmoor. And the reason 6.5 Creedmoor is so popular is because of the ballistics. It is not a high velocity round. I mean, depending on what you're shooting it out of, it's somewhere between maybe 2,500 feet per second to 2,800 feet per second. So, certainly faster than a 30-30, but it's certainly not a 270. And then you have 6.5 bullets, which have a high sectional density, which is going to do a couple things. Into game, it's going to penetrate. And then as far as bucking the wind, it's a longer, slender, you're throwing a spear. It's a Ferrari, not a Greyhound bus. So bucking the wind, it's going to be a little bit better with that than maybe some other calibers you might choose. But a 6.5 Creed, again, is not a high velocity round. So they brought out the 6.5 PRC, which is kind of a 6.5 Creed Magnum, is the easy way to describe it. And just to give you an idea, and this, we'll talk about the round and the load that I'm going to be using. Muzzle velocity is 2,900 feet per second. If I'm sighted in at 200, I'm only 7 inches low at 300. But don't worry, I have a solution for all of this. So this is the gun. The reason I like the gun, I've always liked the Ruger Hawkeye. It's one of those, I think in guns and also any kind of like outdoor gear, we like what we know. I mean, we're all guilty of that. I shot my first elk with a Ruger Hawkeye, an old school one, wooden stock in 30-06. And so what's old is new again, I guess. And so this is kind of a revamped Hawkeye with the stainless barrel and fiberglass stock. But I really like this design. It's just something I like, I'm comfortable with. Now, let's talk about the 6.5 PRC and the ammo. I have shot at least 2 or 3 different animals, antelope and whitetail, with a 6.5 PRC. And Hornady developed the 6.5 PRC, so they're loading the bulk of the ammo that you see out there is going to be from Hornady. They've got their competition bullet, and then they have the ELDX, which is the hunting bullet for this. Extreme, more of long range type bullet, a tipped bullet. And every animal I've shot with it has died. So I can't really complain too much. But I've really liked what I've seen from the Nosler AccuBond bullet. It's a bonded bullet. It's also a tipped bullet. And it's just, we shoot a lot of bullets into gel and water, and I've always been impressed by the performance of the AccuBond. Consistent accuracy, controlled expansion, high weight retention. And when I was thinking about elk, big animals busting through big bone, I wanted something like that. So I'm going with Nosler trophy grade ammo, just as off the rack ammo, but in the 140 grain AccuBond. So it's a bullet I like and a bullet I trust. Now on top of here, this is a scope that was already on the gun, but I kind of went, yeah, I like it. This is a Leupold. It's a 4 to 14 power scope, and it's 4.5 to 14 power scope, and it's a VX3i. Not a fancy scope. It's not a big scope, but for what I'm going to be doing, I'm happy with it. Now, the one thing that's kind of added to this is the CDS, the custom dial system from Leupold. So, if you're going to listen, I don't know if you can hear, you probably can't hear the clicks. On top, this is so cool. You get this dial and you swap out this turret, your elevation turret, on the Leupold scope. You sight it in at 100, you set your turret on 1, and then it's marked with 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, all the way up to like 7. That indicates your yardage. So if you have a rangefinder or range-finding binos and you know the range, now you can go, okay, he's at 350, go to 3.5, you're ready. You're good to go. So yes, it is a way of dialing, but it's a way of dialing with less thinking, which I'm a big fan of, especially when it comes to hunting situations, trying to be quick and making those quick decisions. So what you can do, if you have a Leupold scope, you send them your load data. Okay, I'm shooting a 6.5 PRC. It's 2,900 feet at the muzzle. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to chrono this. And you can also tell them your elevation, and they will custom cut this dial and send it to you. And I think it's like $40 or $50. It's not very expensive, but it's a way that you can have more capabilities in a scope, because one of the things about hunting in Idaho is you're not allowed to have electronic optics, or you can't even have a lit reticle. So it kind of takes away some of the options of what you could do with modern optics. So this is kind of a old school, I guess you'd say, a modern old school, just crosshaired design, but now I can adjust the scope for elevation and make shots out to allegedly 700 yards. I wouldn't shoot nearly that far. But it's a cool system, and I'm excited to have it because I like simple when it comes to hunting. On the end of the gun, we have the primary weapons systems. What is this called? The BDE. It's their Bravo Delta Echo 30 cal can. It's very cool. Now, one of the tricks is this is not exactly Ryan's suppressor. So how am I traveling with it? We're going to talk about that right after the break. Franklin Armory. You guys know Franklin Armory for their binary triggers, probably. Their firearms, the F-17, the BFS-3 firearms, and they've done some other interesting things. But they have specials, and if you're like me, you like to find the deals. And so if you go to franklinarmory.com, you click on specials, and there's a specials page. And they have, all this off of AR binary firing systems, the BFS-3 ARC-1 binary firing system. They have BLEM guns, which you know how it is. BLEM guns, usually, you look on the gun, you can't even find a BLEM on it. But they have BLEM guns, and they've got lowers, they've got uppers, they've got flash hiders. So go check it out. There's deals to be had. And then, of course, the binary systems. Binary triggers, let me tell you, the coolest one they do, a 1022 binary. Boop, 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 boop. Very fun. Go learn more at franklinarmory.com. We were talking about Range Ready earlier, and there's still time in this year to come take a Range Ready class. Now, we've had several of them sell out and are full, but diagnostic pistol instructor at the end of October, DPI. That one still has some spots left. This is a way that it's a pistol class, 2 days, but it's also going to help you diagnose your shooting and diagnose others' shooting. What are you seeing on the target? What are you seeing people do? And then you can tell what's happening. It's kind of a special class that Chris developed over decades of teaching people, and how do I teach them, and how do I teach them to teach others. The other one that's really cool is the Surefire Low Light Experience at Range Ready. We worked with Surefire on this, so it's going to be a 2-day pistol class. You're going to do some indoor stuff. You're going to do some outdoor stuff. You're going to do a lot of low light, working with lights on the gun, the X300, as well as a handheld. These, I'm just going to tell you, the class is almost free. How is this possible, Ryan? Because Surefire is donating the lights. So a weapon-mounted light and a handheld light, it's more than like $400 worth of lights that you're going to take home with you to keep. So go over to rangereadystudios.com and check out what we have going there. Remington Ammunition, they do handgun, they do shot shell, they do rimfire, they do rifle, they do everything. One of the new ones from them, or back from the dead, perhaps, the Nitro Steel Duplex load. Duplex shells are loaded with 2 different sizes of steel shot for ultimate performance. So it's kind of an interesting concept. You have 2 sizes of steel shot. You've got the Remington wad. You have the Nitro Velocity, which is always helpful when it comes to steel. So depending on what you're going to go shoot, you've got 4 different loads in 12 gauge. You got a combo of BB and number 2 shot. For maybe teal season or close in decoy work, you got number 2 shot, number 6 shot. So you're going to get more pellets when you add that 6 shot to the mix. You got BB and number 4, and then you got number 2s and number 4s. So kind of a cool deal. When you're getting ready for waterfowl season, let me just say, don't skimp on the ammo that you're going to buy for waterfowl season. I mean, I know waterfowl loads are expensive, but how many rounds are you actually going to shoot during the season? I mean, if you spent a little bit more to get the good stuff, you probably should. Go over to Remington.com and you'll learn more about that. So I've got this suppressor, and I'm kind of gotten to where I don't want to hunt without a suppressor. Not only does it reduce the noise, which, let's be honest, most of us are not wearing earmuffs when we're hunting, or certainly earplugs. And that one really loud shot from a gun, especially if it has a muzzle brake, can permanently damage your hearing. So that's one reason. But the other big reason is recoil reduction, which lets you stay in the gun, looking through the scope, run the bolt. This is a bolt gun. It's a right-handed bolt gun. God help me. Which I can do. I can run it. But it's going to let you look through the scope, so you can run that gun, stay on the animal, and if you need to put another shot into him, you can do that very quickly, and then the suppressor helps with that. Yeah, it adds a little length to the gun. This one's actually not a small suppressor. This is kind of a big, heavy package. I'm going to be walking around the mountains. I'm not scared. I'm a young, strapping guy in his 40s. Is that young anymore? But it's not a heavy setup, the suppressor itself. It's actually titanium, so it's pretty lightweight. So I'm just going to say, if you haven't hunted with a suppressor, that's probably the best part of a suppressor, is hunting with one, because look, you're not wearing hearing protection. So that's going on the gun. But how do you travel with it? Because we have our FFL, our Federal Firearms License, and an SOT, which is the SOT is an addition to your federal firearms license that lets you handle class 3 stuff, silencers, short barrel rifles and shotguns, even machine guns, depending on what the situation is. And normally when you get a suppressor, you're going to get a tax stamp, and that tax stamp says, okay, this is yours. You're approved to have it. Easy, travel with it. But how do you travel with it when it's yours, but it's not yours? The company sent it. It's on our books as being a dealer. So you have to carry your paperwork with you. It's just another step in the process. So you got to make sure you're doing things the right way. 9 times out of 10, the TSA doesn't even know what to do with this. They just say, okay, it looks like you're fine. They don't know all the regs, but you of course want to do it the right way and make sure you're all covered. So make sure you have your paperwork with you. I actually had a buddy online. We were talking about this and traveling with suppressors. He says, he goes, get ready to try to not die on the floor laughing when TSA picks up your suppressor and asks you if it's loaded. Because even if you're not traveling with a gun, if it's only a suppressor, you still have to declare, get a firearms declaration form and treat it like a firearm. So not a big deal, but just have your paperwork with you. Everybody listening, thanks for listening. Again, please go subscribe to our channels. Go sign up for our email newsletter. You'll be the first one to find out about new classes at Range Ready. You'll be the first one to find out about the deals that we work with Brownells or with Optics Planet or all these different places that are out there. And thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on Gun Talk Nation.